Hello, it's Justin Woodall, and I want to give you an update today about the real estate market. One question that I'm getting often, seems like every day, is how's the real estate market? What's going on? And usually when people ask that question, I think a lot of it is, in the background is what's going on with prices. Are prices rising? Are they falling? Are homes selling? Is there, what's going on there? So, and if you saw my video from last week, I actually compared April of 2019 to April of 2020. And what we saw there is basically that, yes, volume has decreased, but it's decreased equally pretty much between buyers and sellers. The under contracts and solds have gone down, but also the new listings have gone down. So kind of what we're seeing is it's kind of an equilibrium between buyers and sellers. And so that's really, the real estate market is like any other market, and it really comes down to supply and demand. And for prices to be affected, the supply and demand has to get out of whack, so to speak. And so right now it's kind of trending together. And so prices are holding, and actually prices are up quite a bit from April of 2020 to April of 2019. If you didn't see that video, go back to our page, our Facebook page at Woodall Realty Group. It's there. You can watch that video to see how we compare April month over month from a year ago. And so what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen moving forward? So I want to kind of touch on there's a couple of different viewpoints that I'm hearing and seeing, and been doing a lot of reading and researching. And so I want to share a couple of different viewpoints. One is, that hey, we are going to head into another recession. We are going to see prices decline in real estate. It's going to be another 2008. There's that view out there, and a lot of that stems from, and then there's another view out there as well. And I'm going to share both with you, and then you can kind of make your decision on what you think is going to happen. But the view that we're going to repeat 2008 again, a lot of that comes from the record unemployment numbers, the forbearances that are going on, people applying for forbearances because they're out of work, can't make their payments. What's going to happen in 6 months or a year when that day of reckoning comes? Are they going to be able to refinance those loans? Are they going to be able to make up for that forbearance and pay that interest? And how are the banks going to structure that? So there's a lot of unknowns there. And I really think a lot of that depends on how that's structured. And I do know that the government is doing everything they can to prevent a repeat of 2008. And so that's why they're allowing these forbearances. They're giving some guidelines to the banks. And so a lot of that is still to be determined. But I will say, the record unemployment, possibility of forbearances, that is in my mind as, hey, are we going to see things change in the future? And again, I think a lot of it comes down to that supply and demand. And so what I showed you last week, because the market is moving together, it's not going to affect prices. Now, if the unemployment and the forbearances create a lot of sellers putting the houses on the market saying, hey, we can't afford our houses anymore, we've got to sell. You see all kinds of houses come on the market, and then buyers are going, we're not making any money, we're not unemployed, we can't buy. If that happens, then yeah, I think it's going to affect prices. On the flip side of that, if everybody just kind of sits tight, sellers say, hey, we can make our payments because we're drawing unemployment, we're okay, we're making our payments, we're just going to sit where we are, we're not going to sell. And then the buyers are still saying, well, I still want to buy something, or I still want to, I can still buy, or I'm still in the market. Or even if the buyers pull back, if the sellers pull back as well, which is what we saw in April, then it's not going to affect prices that much. So it really depends on whether we see a glut of houses come on the market, or what we've seen in recent years is not enough houses on the market and too many buyers. A lot of buyers out there looking, not enough sellers. And what's happened then? Prices have gone up. So I really think that's going to be the determiner, is do we see a flood of new inventory, or do the buyers pull away? If that happens, then yeah, it's going to affect price. Otherwise, I don't think it is. And so time will tell. I think it's too early to tell. In my opinion, it's too early to know. So what I want to share with you, I actually was a part of a virtual real estate conference last week. And so I want to share with you kind of some of what we had. David Childers from Keeping Current Matters, KCM. They're a real estate economist, forecaster type group that kind of tracks a lot of numbers in real estate. And so I want to share with you kind of what their stance is. And their stance is it's not going to be 2008 again, that, because the whole market dynamics are different. with that supply and demand, and we're just in a different place with equity, a lot of other things. So I'm going to share my screen and show you. I've got the slide deck from that presentation, so I want to share with you some of what they talked about in that presentation. So let's see. So I'm just going to go through this. And so, when is the economy going to recover? What are we going to see? Are we going into a recession? Is this going to be 2008 all over again? So those are some of the questions that they talked about, and we want to answer in this. So, so when is the economy going to recover? And you've got different, and even the economists, even the experts can't agree on this. Some are saying a V shape, some are saying a U shape, which both of those recover fairly quickly. Some are saying L shape, which means it's going to drag out for a long, long time. And, so what KCM stance is so the V shape is it bounces back quickly. And that seems to be the KCM stance, but this is some other financial institutions as well. You've got Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, all four of them saying for second quarter, which is where we're at now, that GDP is going to be down. Yes, we're in a recession. We're in bad shape. But 3 out of the 4 are saying come quarter 3, we're going to be doing much better. And by the end of the year, all 4 agree that we're going to be doing much better. So with that quick bounce, if the economy bounces back quickly, like the projections are showing, then you're probably going to see employment come back. You're going to see a lot of other things like that. So you're probably not going to see that 2008 all over again necessarily, because you're not going to see people fire selling their houses. You're not going to see buyers unable to buy. So, and that's kind of where we are now. We're not seeing any of that now. We've got some buyers that think they've got an opportunity that, hey, sellers are going to be motivated, but the sellers just aren't motivated yet. They're not in that destitute position. And so if they don't get there, it's not going to affect the market that much. I don't believe. So, so this is the projections of these 4 companies. Looking backwards, Harvard Business Review says when you look at history, the V shapes monopolize the landscape of prior shocks, such as the SARS, the H2N2, and the Spanish flu. So when they review those, they say, yeah, the economy bounces back pretty quickly. And this is from a consultant that just says historical analysis shows us the V-shaped recoveries typically provide little damage to home prices. And again, that's what, when people ask about what's the real estate market doing, most of them are saying, hey, what's happening to prices? And so, like I said, right now, because the supply is still low, buyers are still out there, we're seeing prices still rise over the last several months. Now, the coming months, again, that's to be determined depending on the behavior of the buyers and sellers and whether that supply and demand goes up or down. They've adjusted appreciation predictions a little bit from 2020 to 2021. They're saying, hey, we may see a little less appreciation this year just because volume is down a little bit, but we're probably going to see more in 2021. And let's see, of 45 economists that were polled, 22 are predicting a U-shaped, so almost half are predicting a U-shaped recovery, which means we're going to go down and go back up pretty quick. 10 are projecting a V-shaped recovery, and then 7 are projecting a slower recovery, and then 5 are actually projecting a W shape, which means we spike up and then we fall down again and spike up again. So it's interesting, even the 45 economists that were polled in the US and Europe don't have a consensus on what's going to happen. So the reality is nobody really knows. And let's see, but they're looking at business science, health science, and social science to come up with these patterns. And so business science is kind of what's happened in the past, business related. Health science is when will we have a vaccine, or when will it be under control? When will the COVID-19 no longer be instilling the fear that it's instilling now? And then social science, as far as how do people behave? When do people feel like it's safe for me to go out again? When do people feel like, hey, I can go to the movies, I can go to the ball game, I'm safe to get out? And we're already seeing, a large part of the population that is getting out again. And then, time will tell whether that is a good decision or a bad decision. And even in our local market here, just this last week, we've seen a lot more activity, a lot more phone calls, a lot more offers, a lot more negotiations, a lot more going on, even just this week, than we've seen in the last few weeks during this lockdown. So it's already seems like things are starting to loosen up just on a local level. This is kind of some projections. Earlier in March, a lot of people were saying, hey, we're going to be out of this in 30 days. Even Trump was saying, hey, we're going to open up on Easter. Obviously, that didn't happen. As time went on, that number gets fewer. They're saying, hey, 1 to 3 months. And as we've gotten on into April, of course, we're into May now, more people are saying, hey, 1 to 3 months or 3 to 6 months are the projections there. Let's see. So are we going into recession? Yes, obviously we are, but the recession doesn't always equal a housing crisis. And so this is a chief economist from First American, says that while many still bear the scars from the Great Recession and expect the housing market to follow a similar trajectory, there are distinct differences. And because housing led the recession last time, it was the banks giving out junk loans. Anybody with a pulse could get a loan. You stated your income on your application. You didn't even have to prove your income. So there were a lot of things different back then that are not the case now. And he's even saying, housing may lead us out of this one. And over the last several recessions, the only ones that impacted housing prices was the most recent one, the Great Recession, and the Gulf War recession. It was small. And here's those numbers there. And, I guess countrywide, nationwide, it was almost 20% depreciation or 20% fall during 2008 during the last recession. Here we saw a bigger reduction than that. And then the other one was in 1991 where 1.9%. So these other smaller recessions around 2001, 1981, housing prices still rose during those other smaller recessions. So again, time will tell. So are we going into 2008 all over again? That is the question. And again, KCM's view is that we are not. Appreciation leading up to the last housing crisis, the crash was that, houses were appreciating at a very rapid rate, 8 to 12%. Leading up to this one, they're in a more controlled 4 to 6%. So it's a little different situation there. And housing, during the housing bubble, the mortgage credit availability index was really high. That means that almost anybody could get a mortgage. Obviously, that has dropped off now, and it's much lower today. So the people that are getting mortgages now are much more qualified and in much better shape than back in 2006, 2007. Buyer's market leading up during the Great Recession, again, it was a buyer's market. Now we're in a seller's market, and that has to do with that supply and demand that I talked about earlier. Back then, it was a buyer's market. There were too many houses for sale, not enough buyers. Buyers had to pick. They could pick the best things. They could negotiate. Right now, we're in a seller's market. Buyers are still seeing multiple offers. They're having to compete. They're having to really put their best foot forward to get the house that they're looking for. Equity cashed out. A lot more equity was cashed out during the previous recession, whereas now a lot less. And this is a really encouraging chart here in that the over 50% of homes have 50% or more equity in their homes, which is very encouraging. People aren't going to let their homes foreclose when they've got over 50% equity. And 37% are owned free and clear. The average equity is $177,000 of homes that are mortgaged in America. So that's very encouraging that people have equity. They're not, they didn't go get the 100% loan or 105% loan. I remember back in the prior to the last recession, people would literally go to closing and walk away with a check. So they could make money buying a house. Obviously, if they get in trouble, it's easy for them to let it go. They got no skin in the game. Whereas now, on average, people have $177,000 equity, and over 50% have more than 50% equity, which means their home is worth more than twice what they owe. And that's half of them. So I think we're in a better shape. So hopefully KCM's prediction is true, and we're not going to see much effect on prices. And I do think volume's going to be down. Volume's down now. My hope is in the next few months it's going to rise again. We typically peak in Athens around May and June, and hopefully this year we're going to peak in July and August. I think as we come out of this, the people that have been sitting on the sidelines, they're going to jump in, and hopefully we'll see a peak at the end of the summer and see more volume, because the volume affects us as real estate agents. It doesn't necessarily affect the consumer, again, as long as that supply and demand stays in equilibrium. So we're going to keep watching the numbers, keep you informed, and keep you updated. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or comments. And I'd love for you to comment below. Let us know what you think is going to happen. Do you think that things are going to be fine? Do you think it's going to be bad? What do you think? I'd love to start some dialogue there. And again, reach out to us if we can do anything to help you out. We're here for you, and we're going to keep you posted. Keep watching the Woodall Realty Group's page, and we'll continue to keep you updated with future videos. And again, reach out if you have any questions.